Hello and welcome to this edition of Peak Life. I'm Elizabeth Vaughn, and today we're talking about a very important safety topic about natural gas. So I've got the guy here who knows all about it, David Jacob, senior firefighter and hazmat technician. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's just start with the basics. I mean, what is natural gas?
So that's a great question. Natural gas, like petroleum, is a fossil fuel. It's found in pockets deep underground and is harvested by drilling.
Okay.
Natural gas also is odorless, and although companies do add a distinctive odor, so when it is leaking inside, it can be immediately detectable by the nose. Some companies don't add that, but most companies around here, and that's called mercaptan. And that's what you smell. It's going to be like a sulfur, a very distinct kind of nasty smelling odor.
So like a rotten egg.
Absolutely,
type
absolutely.
smell.
So if you do have natural gas in your home and you do start smelling that odor, something's wrong.
Okay. What could possibly happen if we have a natural gas leak? Like, what are the concerns?
Yeah, so some of the concerns, some of the characteristics of natural gas would be that it's highly flammable. It also, in large amounts inside of a room, it would displace oxygen as well. So obviously we need oxygen to breathe. So then it also displaces oxygen and is highly flammable. So we're worried about the flammability and possible explosions in certain levels.
Okay. So let's kind of go through the steps. You're in your home. You know that you have that natural gas hookup because not everybody has it.
Correct.
But a lot do, especially
Correct.
here in Chesapeake.
Absolutely.
And you smell something funky. Maybe you're starting to feel kind of funky.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, so immediately I would suggest that you immediately go outside. Most people would have a cell phone at this point, and to call 911, call your local fire department. Also, too, most likely with that smell, most people would have some type of detector in their home. So, so generally speaking, if you have that smell and the detector is going off as well, there's some type of alarm. It'll even say, some of the newer ones will even say carbon monoxide detection. And carbon monoxide is related to natural gas because it's just carbon monoxide incomplete combustion. So the appliance that you're having is not completely burning off that natural gas. It's not functioning properly.
Okay.
So it's not, you're not smelling the natural gas, you know, the detector's not detecting the natural gas detector. It's actually just detecting the incomplete combustion of that appliance. Say like a stove or a hot water heater or some type of HVAC appliance. So yeah, your detector's going off. You see that smell, two big clues, so immediately exit the residence and call 911.
So that detector that you're talking about, I think, is what we've talked about on previous editions to go with your fire, your smoke alarm.
Absolutely.
So you get the smoke alarm and the carbon monoxide, and the carbon monoxide will also help you with this natural gas potential.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
great.
So,
2 in 1.
and a lot of commercially available detectors are both dual smoke and carbon monoxide. You can just buy standalone carbon monoxide detectors, but obviously they're sold as a combination now for convenience.
And because you said it's lighter than air or lighter than oxygen, however
Lighter
you
than
phrase
air,
that,
oxygen, yeah.
do you have to place those detectors high, or can they be down low in a socket?
Right,
or?
so that's a good point. So some of the standalone ones are placed down low, and that's not necessarily a good thing. So that's why having a dual-use smoke detector, you wouldn't place your smoke detector down on the ground, because the smoke is going to go up to the ceiling to begin with. So yes, we would suggest that you place those kind of in the ceiling area where you would place a smoke detector.
That's where I'm going wrong. I got one in the socket down there on the bottom.
I have seen those,
So
and those, and with the numbers, and sometimes those are a little bit older style. You can place those, like I said, on a generally higher area.
I'm gonna go home and do that. Okay, so we've we exited the building,
Right.
And there are a few things that you want to try not to do as you're exiting because of how flammable it is.
It can. Sometimes, if it finds itself to be within that flammable range, we'll use some big words here, it definitely needs to be contained in order to ignite. So say you do have those perfect conditions and it's looking for an ignition source. It's looking for any type of spark, any type of thing. So obviously lighting a cigarette or using a garage door opener or some type of, that could cause a spark on your way out of the structure is not recommended. So make sure that you're far enough away from your home and outside before you do any type of those activities.
Okay, that's another good reason to not smoke, right?
Correct.
You won't blow yourself up.
Along with a lot of other ones.
Yeah. So once you guys arrive, how do you fix the problem? Like, what's the process? Correct.
So that's a great question. So we would get the call for a potential gas leak in a home or the smell of gas, or generally speaking, we have a carbon monoxide alarm going off, is usually what we get. So we arrive on scene. Here at Station 5, we have the luxury of having our 4 gas meters, which we can detect a wide 4 different gases that could be hazardous. So we arrive on scene, we meet the homeowner outside, we go over them, kind of what's going on, kind of get a quick history, and then we would make entry into the structure with our meters, making sure, and kind of ask them, hey, what's going on? Any appliances malfunctioning? So that way we can kind of go directly to that source so we're not going around. If they report no no knowledge of any direct malfunction of appliances, then we can kind of do a general search and make sure that the house is clear and that we're not getting anything on our meter. We both have an LEL, which is a little bit more flammable range meter, so we can detect some gases. We can actually, if we do find a leak, we actually have a combustible gas meter to kind of really pinpoint that stuff as well. A wide apparatus throughout the city have these capabilities as well. So it's not just us, but we do have additional training being the hazmat unit at Station 5 that we can help somebody. So as soon as you've identified that problem, we would secure the gas to that residence. We'd make notification as well to Virginia Natural Gas or Columbia Natural Gas in order to have their technician come out and help identify that problem as well.
So if you do find a leak, then they've got to come out and shut it off.
Yeah. So generally, so there's a process of that as well. So we would, if it's a bad enough leak to where we can't secure it at the appliance level, say to the supply to the stove, we don't want to shut gas off to the entire residence because obviously that's a major inconvenience to that individual and family. So we try to secure it at the stove or at the water heater, depending on what that looks like, or at the fireplace, and then just have that specific appliance worked on. We do have a process, not to get too called a red tag, and so that's us saying, look, we found this to be malfunctioning, and that goes to our fire prevention office, and they have to come out and check and make sure that's okay. And there's a number on the back in the process to get that fixed.
So they will come back to make sure that it's okay.
Absolutely. So the process would that be, so the reg tide process is, and getting the system fixed, is that you would have a qualified technician come out, repair the appliance and or system, and then they would call our fire prevention office and let them know that they've serviced that and it's up to their standards, or up to contract standards.
Oh, that's great. So you can kind of have that peace of mind from the experts to know that.
Absolutely. So we don't want a homeowner attacking this situation their own, saying, hey, look, I think I fixed it, and then having an incident afterwards. So we arrive on scene, we identify the problem, we make sure that there's no immediate hazard to that, and then we turn it over to qualified contractors to help mitigate the problem.
I'm sure sometimes you show up and there's nothing. It's just
right. So that's a great question, and we're glad with that, right? So we don't want anybody to be out of home or have a real big problem. So we'll come out, and if you think you smell something, think you hear something, I like to say the phrase "smells and bells." So that's what we deal with. So yeah, if your detector's going off and we can't find anything, sometimes we'll chalk it up to a bad detector, and those do go bad. This is kind of an information too, that those go for about 10 years. So some of the older homes, about the time frame now, they were built in the early 2000s, starting to go bad now, and so yeah, you might need to replace your detector. So, and if we don't find anything, we try to give the most reassurance we can. That doesn't mean nothing's there, but it means that our meters have no detectable levels.
So it's really important for people, particularly those who know they have natural gas coming into their home. They need to know these symptoms, that if they start smelling something funky or feeling weird, they need to get out of the house and make that call. Right. And they have to have these detectors.
Absolutely.
We really all need to have these detectors and properly placed. I'm going to go home and fix that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you talk about some signs and symptoms of that real quick. I think it's important that we go over those.
Yeah.
And natural gas itself, because of the additives, yes, you should be able to smell it, but that doesn't mean you always will. So if you're in your home and you're feeling sick for an unknown reason, say you have like a headache, lightheaded, dizziness, people are throwing up, and my assessment of that is it's multiple people. If you're in your home alone and you're the only one feeling like that, you might not attribute it to the natural gas. But if you're in a home, well, 5 or 6 people are feeling this way, it could be something bigger than just the average flu. So if everybody's feeling sick, dizzy, lightheaded, exit the home, kind of call the best you can, even though feeling that way, and make sure that you get public safety involved.
Maybe get outside, take a few breaths, see if that helps.
Absolutely, because the clean air, because the way that your body processes that carbon, because that's what's making you sick, is the incomplete combustion of that carbon monoxide. And it's weird, the correlation between the natural gas and the carbon monoxide, and then what makes you sick. So the fresh air will help with that a lot.
Is there a time of year when this is worse than others?
Generally speaking, no, but sometimes in the winter months, because a lot of the gas packs and a lot of the HVAC systems can run off of natural gas. We tend to find those, and with fireplaces. I would say, generally speaking, the winter time we can encounter that more.
Plus, you got all your windows closed. So
absolutely.
It's all closed.
And nobody wants to run outside in the winter.
Yeah. David, this was really great information. Anything else you want to add about natural gas?
I don't think so, but just one final step. In order to prevent your appliances from getting to those places to where they may malfunction, just make sure that you clean them on a regular basis. Make sure that you follow all manufacturers' recommendation in cleaning cycle and that. That way, you hopefully that's one more step to prevent this cause to begin with.
Absolutely. We want to keep everybody safe, so maintain that stuff. David Jacob, Fire Department, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
That does it for this edition of Peake Life. Thank you so much for joining us.